Good afternoon, LinkedIn. Well, it's absolutely tipping it down outside, so I thought I'm staying in here and I'm going to share a video that I hope might add some value. And the video is about overwhelm. It's the one subject that's coming up time and time again at the moment with all of my clients. I work with educational leaders, and there are so many variables and moving things going on at the moment that it's causing people to feel overwhelmed. So I've got some thoughts for you. It might take around 7 minutes to get through them. I've got 7 items, and I hope that by the end of them that you might be able to implement some or all of them and get control of some of your chaos if that's where you're finding yourself right now. So here we go. Number one is to avoid the negative influence of social media. At the moment, there is so much being talked about. I'm seeing a lot of it on Twitter. It's obviously all over the TV, especially around the subject of education, around how difficult things are. Now, there is no doubt that it's incredibly difficult times. But if you get embroiled in negativity and joining in on sharing how dreadful things are, you are going to feel more dreadful as a result. Even if you think it feels like a comfort to share it, if you find that you're getting too into it and bringing yourself down by being around it, then number one, I would say try and avoid as many negative influences as you can. Number two is to change your emotional state. Now, if I were to ask you to think about the physiology of somebody who was depressed, you would probably describe somebody who's got round shoulders, they're a bit bent over, they're looking downwards, their breathing is probably quite shallow, they're slower speech, and I had another one, it's gone out of my head. But anyway, there's somebody, you can tell when somebody looks depressed. And if you act depressed, you will feel depressed. Whereas you can also act confident and feel confident as well. So you need to be able to change your emotional state through your physiology. I've talked about this one before, but just briefly, you can raise your testosterone level by 20%. You can reduce your cortisol level, which is your stress hormone, and become 33% more likely to take resourceful action if you take 2 minutes to stand like Wonder Woman, believe it or not. So you can stand with your hand on your hips, breathing deeply, thinking confident, powerful thoughts, and it physically changes the chemistry in your body. So if you want to become more likely to take action and not get paralyzed by the amount of stuff going on, then stand like Wonder Woman, Superman for 2 minutes and see what it does to your mental, your emotional state. The third one is to clear away physical clutter. So if you're working in a room with a desk which is absolutely covered in paperwork and stuff, and you're having to look under things to find things, that in itself is a stressor. And the more work you've got to do, the more likely it is that your desk will end up in a mess. So if you can just take 20 minutes, and I know it means that you have to stop working for 20 minutes, but in the long run, you're slowing down in order to speed up. So take 20 minutes, clear your desk, get rid of the clutter. And it does two things. One, it makes your environment nicer to work in. But secondly, you feel like you've taken control of something. And that's a feeling that maybe is lacking at the moment. So take control of the clutter. The next one is to take control of your mental clutter. So if you are feeling overloaded, what we often tend to do is store things in our heads, but our short-term memory can only hang on to, I think it's about 7 things at once. And then if you've got all this stuff backed up in your mind and you haven't written it down, you're going to start forgetting. And when you forget, that in itself is a stressor, because you know you've forgotten something but can't remember what it is. So get a cup of tea, sit down at your newly clean desk and write a list of everything that you can think of that you need to do. And take the time to really dig deep into the archives and get it all out onto the page. And this is the bit where you can start taking control. Next to all of those items that you've got on the list, write one of these 4 things next to each item. Either stop, start, continue, or delegate. So stop is when you look down that list and think, I really shouldn't be doing that. I don't need to do that. Write stop next to it. Or you can cross it out. It's up to you. The next one is start. It could be that you've been putting something off, or you haven't started something because you've been busy elsewhere doing things that you might should maybe have been doing. So write start next to that. Continue is fairly obvious, just the stuff you need to continue doing. And delegate is the things that you can move on to somebody else. So sometimes stop and delegate work together because you stop doing it, but you delegate it to somebody else. Once you've done that, go down that list of things that you need to start and you need to continue and give them a priority number, either 1, 2 or 3. Priority 1 is I need to do this ASAP. And if I don't do it, something's going to happen. So that's the number 1. Number 2 is this is important, but it can wait. And number 3 is I want to do this, but I don't have to do it straight away. Once you've got your start and continue list with the priority numbers next to it, the next thing is to allocate a time next to each of those things you need to do for how long it's going to take you to do. So if you've got a governor's report to write, for example, and it's 2 hours that you need to do it, write 2 hours next to it. If it's a bunch of emails, it's 1.5 hours, stick 1.5 hours. Give everything a priority number and a time. And then lastly comes the bit where you get control, which is you get into either your Outlook calendar or your paper diary, and you physically transfer things into the diary according to your number 1s and the timings that they need, followed by the number 2s, followed by the number 3s. Leave room to breathe in that. So you need to eat, you need to take time out, otherwise you're not going to be good to anybody. But that's a way to get control in the immediate when things are flying around you and it feels like you can't see the wood for the trees. Now I hope that's helped. It is very much a zip through some things, but it is 7 minutes almost on the dot. So if there's anything else that you need help with on this subject, please feel free to get in touch. Take care.